Welcome to Simply Balance, you guys. My name is David Gensheimer, and in this video, we're going to be covering push-ups, but specifically push-ups for my ladies out there. One of the most common things that I see in classes is that they're struggling to be able to do 1, 2, maybe even 3 push-ups in a row, and I want my clients to be able to do many push-ups in a row with good form and good quality. But I noticed that there's just some strength and some technique that is lacking that allows them to be able to get there. So in this video, I'm going to help you be able to do your push-ups better and more of them and be feeling confident in your Pilates classes or in any fitness class that you go to, and you can be proud of the push-up that you have. So stay tuned, and I look forward to sharing this information with you. So as we discussed earlier, we are going to be talking about push-ups specifically for my ladies. Before we get into this video, make sure that you like that button and subscribe to the channel. Miss Olivia here is going to be assisting us in the process of push-ups, since we are specifically talking for my women out there. And one of the big things that we're going to be talking about is the foundation of the shoulder and how that's going to help us in our push-ups. But I really went into depth in that with our last video. It was about shoulder injuries, but we talked a lot about the scapula and how the humerus sits into the scapula and helps stabilize that whole entire joint. So if our scapula is not working well, then ultimately you're not going to be able to do a push-up well. So go back, I'm going to link that video somewhere up here above, and you can go watch that video and kind of learn a little bit more about scapular stability. We're going to steal one exercise from that video. It's called Sternum Drops. So she's going to come onto her hands and knees. And so in this exercise, what she's going to do is she's going to be squeezing her shoulder blades all the way together into her spine, trying to get complete retraction of those shoulder blades. And then she's going to slowly pull them all the way apart and get complete protraction. So we're working that serratus anterior. So we got rhomboids as she pulls together, and serratus anterior as she comes apart. So one of the big things with push-ups is we have to be able to move the scapula before we ever try to start getting into the chest and triceps. If this isn't stable, nothing else is going to work well. Next, she's going to move on to her knees further back, so she's like in a modified push-up position. So just like we did in our last video, she's going to squeeze those shoulder blades together, pinch them into the spine, and then she's going to pull them apart and try to lengthen as much as she can. So now we're doing it under load, and we're getting a little bit closer to that push-up position. And then lastly, she's going to come up into a full plank position. And she's going to do the same thing again. She's going to retract those shoulder blades all the way together and then pull them all the way apart. Awesome, relax, live. So this is our first exercise in our little series. And we need to really be able to get into high volume reps of this. I'm talking 10s, 15s, even 20s, sustainable, good reps where you get full pulling apart of those shoulder blades and then complete retraction of those shoulder blades. And then once we really feel confident with that movement, now we're going to start adding in other aspects of, or other exercises into it. Okay, so this is exercise number 2. So we've done the sternum drops, now we're moving against the wall. So we're gonna be doing the same concept that we did with those sternum drops, but instead of doing it on the ground, we're actually gonna be doing it against the wall. And the reason why we're doing it against walls is we kind of want to get rid of the load. Instead, we want to be doing all of this without load, so we really conquer the mechanics of what a push-up should really feel like before we start adding load back into it. And so if you notice, her hands are fairly far apart. They're not too close together or too far apart. We'll talk about that here in just a second, but let's look at her push-ups. So she's gonna do the sternum drops at the same time as she bends her arms. So she's gonna retract the shoulder blades together, bend those arms, drift forward, and then she's gonna press out and she's gonna protract those shoulder blades. And do it again. She's gonna retract. She has a nice open chest, and then as she comes apart, she's gonna protract the shoulder blades. Awesome. So the reason why we're doing that is that when we move the shoulder blades like that, we're actually moving the place where the humeral head sits. So we're pointing the humerus back and we're pointing the humerus forward. If we keep our scapula stable, the glenohumeral joint ends up doing all of the work of the shoulder. And that ends up doing a lot of wear and tear on it, but also stretching out the anterior capsule, especially in a push-up position. And so what we want to do is try to use that big bone, that scapula, with all the muscles attached to it, so that it's doing just as much work as our triceps and our pec muscles are. So we're really getting a lot of range of motion out of the shoulder blades, so that we're opening up the front of the shoulder and not putting that stress on the anterior capsule. So watch her do that again. She's gonna go hands against the wall. She's gonna go in, she's gonna squeeze those shoulder blades, and she's gonna hold it here for a second. If you notice, that chest is nice and open here. Now, if she opened her shoulder blades up like we normally do push-ups, you'll start to notice that that shoulder rolls forward and she has a lot of stress on the anterior capsule. Awesome, come back. Now, also, a lot of times people do a very much like a military push-up. Some people call them like chaturangas. And if they do this, a lot of times they forget to retract the shoulder blades. And what happens is that puts that stress on the anterior capsule again. Instead, we want to retract those shoulder blades when we do our chaturangas and then come back up. So we don't have that rolling forward of the shoulder when we go down. We want to squeeze the shoulder blades and protract the shoulder blades. Yep, so we have really good placement of the humeral head. Same thing, we also don't want to go too wide with our hands, because if we do, the elbows are going to be going out to the side, and then you'll have that contact of the acromion on top and the greater tubercle coming in contact like we talked about in the last video. So that's the big thing that we're looking at. So we're taking all the gravity out of it, or as much of gravity as we can, all the weight and the load, and trying to work on the mechanics. Once they've conquered the mechanics, then we'll work to our next exercise on the ground. I love to do this, especially with my older clients, because you'll see that this is really where they actually it actually may be hard for them, but also it really nails in that technique. If you take them to the ground and they're losing their form, ultimately it's not going to help them long term. It's only going to be harmful to them. So just remember that. Let's go ahead and move on to our exercise number 3. Okay, so we're on to exercise number 3. So we've looked at the sternum drops on the ground, moving our way into a plank. Then we slowly progress to push-ups against the wall, where we're bending our arms and we're adding that into the sternum drop, but we're not losing the sternum drop. The sternum drop is still a part of this whole entire picture. So now we're going to actually be moving on to a box. So we're going to be doing push-ups on a box, and not quite all the way on the ground yet, because we're slowly progressing our way there. So when we do these push-ups on the box, all the same principles that we did on the wall, we're going to apply here. She has good protraction on the shoulder blades. She's going to bend those arms and go down, squeeze the shoulder blades together. If you notice, her elbows are pointed on an angle like she's an arrow, and then she's going to press back up and protract her shoulder blades. Do that again. Go down, retract the shoulder blades on the way down, and then she is going to protract the shoulder blades on the way up. Awesome, excellent job. So same principles, nothing else changes. We want good range of motion, so going all the way down, all the way up. If you can't get all the way down here and all the way up, you can either, elevate the box a little bit and do something a little bit higher, or you can go back to the wall. But I would recommend maybe trying to stack another box on top. So you're slowly working your angle downward to this level. Really, honestly, when you're at this height, I would recommend that you should be able to get to 10 or 12 reps consistently before you move past this. If you can't really get to 10 to 12 reps with good form, good retraction and everything else, you should really be sticking at this stage before you move on. Once you've conquered this stage, we're going to move on and do the same exact thing again, but we're going to do it now on the ground. So she's going to come on down, and once again, hands a little bit wider. Same principle. She's going to go down. She's going to retract those shoulder blades, good range of motion, and press up and protract. Excellent, and relax. So same thing here. When she's going down and up, we should be able to get to 10 or 12 reps. One of the things that you can do here, if this is a hard place for you to go, maybe you can only do 2, 3, 4 here. Do 2, 3, or 4 here, and then get the box back out and do another set of 8 or 10 on the box. And that will be one set, and take a rest break between that set. So you'll do a couple on your knees, and then you'll do a couple on your knees with the box. And once you've conquered that, take a rest break and then come back and do another set. Try to do at least 2 or 3 sets every time you practice this. And once a week is really not enough. You're going to have to really be practicing 2, maybe 3 times a week on this push-up position. And then lastly, we're going to go to our full push-up. Are you excited?
So excited.
So she's going to pop up, and once again, she's going to retract those shoulder blades on the way down, squeeze, 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 and then press it all the way up. And one more time, let's do it. Down, squeeze, and press it all the way up. Excellent job, and relax. So same principle here. If you can only do 2 or 3 at this point, which you should be able to once you've conquered these other 2 stages, do 2 or 3, then drop to your knees and give me 8 to 10 more reps on your knees, then take a rest break. Do another set after that. So you're going to do 2, maybe 3 sets every single time, especially when you get up to the push-ups, and you really honestly will see drastic increases through all of these stages. Now, as you're practicing this, don't feel pressured to be stuck at just one stage every single week. Let's say you do sternum drops, and you can do 20 sternum drops in a plank. There's no point to continue practicing those same sternum drops over and over and over again. Progress yourself to the wall and then progress yourself to the box, depending on whatever stage you're in. But just make sure that you've hit all those stages at least once, and then you have really clean form throughout that whole process. And then when you get to your struggle stage, that's that stage that you really want to spend time on. Make sure your form is really clean, and then back it off to whatever the previous stage was for a good amount of reps. And time there. And honestly, you're going to see great results from this. Thanks again for watching, you guys. I'm really glad that y'all watched this video. Hopefully this is helpful information, especially if you're struggling with your push-up. If you liked it, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. It would really help us out in getting this content out to other people. If you want other content or any kind of specific topics you want me to cover, post those comments down below, and we'll try our best to get to those topics for you guys. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next video.